Under the silvery moonlight, when the world was immersed in the clamor of senseless battles, a woman stood quietly, her eyes as deep as a still lake without ripples. She did not speak against slander, nor did she raise her hand to retaliate against wounds, but in her silence, a sacred flame burned, fierce and unextinguished. It was not resignation, but the strength of a soul that had entrusted all pain to the hands of God. Her silence was a hymn, a sharp sword cutting through the darkness, a pair of wings lifting her above the storms. Do you want to know the secret behind that stillness, where a woman found peace amidst chaos and the strength to make the heavens bow? Listen, for this story will touch your heart, awaken your faith, and remind you that in silence, there is an unmatched power. Amid the narrow roads shaded by oak trees, where the sunset cast long shadows on the weathered wooden porch, a woman sat quietly, her hands clasped on a worn armchair softened by years. Out there, the world remained noisy with whispers of gossip, cries of injustice, and wounds from a past that never fully healed. But she, with eyes as deep as an autumn river, did not speak. Not because she had nothing to say, nor because her heart had run dry. No, her silence was a smoldering flame, a wordless hymn echoing through the clouds, reaching the heavens where prayers are heard. She had walked through the cold corridors of betrayal, where promises vanished like smoke and familiar eyes turned away without explanation. She had stood at life's crossroads, where her voice was drowned by harsh judgments, and her dignity was trampled by those who never understood. But instead of striking back, instead of letting anger sweep her into chaos, she chose silence. Not the silence of surrender, but the silence of a soul that had learned to entrust all pain to the hands of the one who never slumbers. That silence, oh, it was not small. It was like a hill standing firm before a storm, like a candle burning brightly despite the cold wind. It was a sharp sword slicing through the darkness of lies, a pair of wings lifting her above raging waves. In moments of stillness, as light from an old desk lamp fell on her face, she found a sanctuary, not built of brick and stone, but of silent prayers, unseen tears, and a fierce faith that every wound would one day heal. She did not need to shout to be heard, nor chase the spotlight to be seen. Her presence, with all its calm and dignity, told a story more powerful than any words. Those who have endured, who have walked through the long winters of life, will understand that silence is not the absence of strength. It is a choice, a strategy forged through sleepless nights, through mornings waking with a heavy heart yet choosing to rise. She, the woman sitting under the sunset, had learned that not every battle needs her voice. Some battles can only be won by letting the Almighty speak for her. She knew that each word spoken is a precious drop from the cup of her soul, and she did not waste it on the deserts of ignorance or the storms of hatred. While those around her rushed to chase criticism, blaming and arguing to defend their honor, she chose to stand still. Not because she didn't feel the pain. Oh, she felt it keenly, like a sharp knife piercing her chest. But she had learned from past scars that retaliation does not bring freedom, that anger only adds to the burden. Instead, she turned inward, where her heart met her soul, where she heard the whisper of the one who created her. There, in silence, she found the strength to forgive, to let go, and to move forward with a heart unstained by bitterness. Her silence was a quiet declaration that she did not belong to this world's chaos. She belonged to a higher kingdom, where justice does not require shouting, where love does not need ostentation. She did not need to prove her worth, for she knew that the one who called her name before the world labeled her had already done so. Each time she chose silence, she wove a tapestry of faith, each thread a prayer, each knot a moment she entrusted everything to the hands of the Almighty. And so, as the sunset faded and the first stars twinkled in the sky, she lifted her head, not with arrogance, but with the peace of a soul that had found its true home. Her silence, like a deep river flowing through barren fields, brought life, healing, and a reminder that true strength lies not in the loudest voice, but in a heart that knows when to speak and when to let the heavens speak instead. From that wooden house, her story was only beginning, a tale of faith, dignity, and an unmatched power waiting to be discovered. As the stars began to twinkle in the sky, the light from the desk lamp in the wooden house still fell on the woman's face. Now she stood, stepping out onto the porch, where the cool autumn night air embraced her like a comforting whisper. In her stillness, she was not merely a solitary figure, but a symbol, a mountain standing tall amidst life's winds, a deep river flowing through barren fields, bringing life without needing to roar. She was the silent woman, not diminished by it, but through that silence, her dignity was etched into the earth, like the roots of an oak gripping tight through seasons of storms. She had walked jagged paths of life, where sharp stones of slander and betrayal cut into her pride. There were days, as sunlight streamed through the kitchen window, when she stood still at the sink, hands pausing in the water, as memories of cruel words from once close companions rose like waves. There were nights, as the clock ticked slowly, when she lay awake, hearing her heartbeat, feeling the pain of being abandoned, misunderstood, or rendered invisible. But she did not fall. She did not let those wounds define her. Instead, she let them refine her, like steel tempered in a forge, emerging stronger, sharper, and more beautiful in the eyes of the one who created her. Her silence was not the absence of strength, but a fire burning quietly in a hearth, enough to warm a house through a harsh winter. She did not need to shout to affirm her existence, nor raise a flag to reclaim her honor. Her presence, with straight shoulders, steadfast eyes, and a heart untainted by bitterness, told a heroic tale on its own. She walked as if wearing an invisible crown, not of arrogance, but of dignity, forged from tears she did not shed before enemies, from prayers whispered in the dark, and from a fierce faith that she was never alone. Those who have passed through life's seasons, bearing scars from long years, will recognize that dignity does not come from the loudest voice in the room. It comes from how she stood firm when the world tried to pull her down. She had heard whispers behind her back, judgments from those who never understood her journey. She had felt the chill of averted eyes, as if she were unworthy of being seen. But she did not stoop to retaliate. She did not let her heart be dragged into the mire of anger or resentment. Instead, she chose to hold her head high, not to challenge, but to remind herself that she belonged to a higher kingdom, where her worth was not measured by the words of others, but by the hand that inscribed her name in the book of life. Her silence was a proclamation, needing no sound, that she was not defined by what others thought. She was a candle that did not go out despite the cold wind, an oak that did not break despite the storm. She did not chase recognition, for she knew that the Almighty had seen every step she took, counted every tear, and prepared a path ahead where her wounds would become precious jewels. As she walked the familiar village paths under shaded trees, people might not hear her voice, but they felt her strength, a strength that needed no display, yet was enough to make the heavens bow. And so, as night fell, as the light from the wooden house flickered like a beacon in the darkness, she stood there, not just a woman, but a symbol of enduring dignity. Her story, woven from threads of silence and faith, waited to reveal deeper secrets about how she turned pain into strength and how she let the Almighty guide her through life's storms. As night enveloped the wooden house, the faint glow of a street lamp filtered through the oak trees, casting the shadow of a woman standing quietly on the porch. The night wind carried a chill, as if trying to seep into the deep scars of her soul, scars the world never saw but was quick to judge. She stood there, hands clasped, not to hide her pain, but to hold on to her dignity before a world that mistook her silence for weakness, for surrender. But oh, if they paused for a moment, if they listened to the whisper of her heart, They would know that her silence was not the absence of strength, but a ceaseless prayer, a flame burning through long nights of suffering. She had walked life's roads where each step was heavy with lies. There were mornings, as the first sunlight streamed through the window, when she stood before the mirror, looking into her eyes and seeing the shards of dreams trampled. She remembered standing in crowded rooms, her voice drowned by judgments, her wisdom dismissed because she did not shout for attention. She had felt the chill of averted eyes, as if she were unworthy of being seen or heard. Whispers behind her back, sharp words like knives from those who once promised to stand by her, cut deep into her heart, leaving wounds known only to the long nights alone. There were moments, as the clock ticked slowly in the quiet room, when she sat clutching a cold coffee cup, feeling the pain of betrayal like a wave crashing against the shore. She recalled being abandoned, not just by loved ones, but by the values she once trusted. Honesty, fairness, love. She had stood before closed doors, hearing the echo of slander from the town's hidden corners, where people thought they knew her story but never truly understood. They called her distant, passive, even broken, because she did not strike back, did not add her voice to the chorus of chaos. But her pain was not just from external wounds. It was the silent battles within her soul where she faced the question, why am I treated this way? There were nights, as moonlight streamed through the window, when she knelt on the floor, tears falling silently, not from weakness, but from a heart that felt deeply. She wept for misunderstandings, for kindness turned into weapons, for standing up only to be pushed down. Those tears, like precious pearls, fell in silence, but not in vain. They were gathered by the Almighty, written into the book of justice, where every pain has meaning. The world saw her silence and mistook it for failure. They saw her standing quietly in a corner, not responding to criticism, and thought she had given up. They heard the wind blowing through her porch on autumn nights and assumed her heart was as cold. But they did not know that in her silence, she was weaving a tapestry of faith, each thread a silent prayer, each knot a moment she entrusted her pain to the one who never turns away. Her silence was a hymn, not echoing through village roads, but reaching the heavens where angels listen. They did not see the battles she fought in the dark, the times she rose from the ashes of shattered dreams, hands trembling but heart resolute. They did not hear the words she whispered to the Almighty, kneeling in her small room, asking for strength to forgive, to let go, to move forward without bitterness. Her silence was not the absence of a voice, but a sacred language, a declaration that she did not belong to this world's chaos. She belonged to a higher kingdom, where dignity does not require shouting, where justice does not need vengeance. And so, as the street lamp flickered through the oaks, as the night wind sang a song of stillness, she stood there, not just a woman bearing pain, but a lighthouse amidst the sea, shining through storms of misunderstanding. Her story, etched with scars and prayers, waited to reveal a deeper truth, that in silence, she not only survived, but found a strength that made the heavens bow, a strength forged from faith and enduring patience. As the street lamp's glow faded and stars twinkled in the night sky, the woman stepped into the wooden house, closing the door behind her as if shutting out the world's noise. In the small room, light from a candle on the wooden table flickered, illuminating the wrinkles on her hands, marks of long years bearing both joy and pain. She sat, her hands gently touching an old, worn book, not to read with her eyes but to feel with her heart. Here, in the stillness of the room, she found a sanctuary without a dome, a place where her faith, like a steadfast anchor, held her firm amidst life's storms. Her silence was not merely restraint before suffering, but a living prayer, a thread connecting her to the Almighty, who saw every scar and heard every sigh. She had stood at dark crossroads, where the pain of betrayal and slander weighed on her shoulders like stones. There were mornings, as dawn peeked through the curtains, when she woke with a heavy heart, feeling as if the world had turned its back. Whispers of doubt echoed in her mind. Am I truly seen? Am I truly loved? But in those moments, she did not seek the world's noise to soothe her pain. She turned inward, where her heart met her soul, where she heard the gentle whisper of the one who promised never to forsake her. Her faith, like a small flame in a hearth, was not dazzling, but enough to warm the coldest nights, enough to remind her that every wound would one day heal. In silence, she knelt on the floor, not with grand prayers, but with sighs, silent tears, and an open heart. She did not ask the Almighty to erase her pain, but for strength to bear it, courage to forgive, and peace to move forward without bitterness. Those prayers, like birds flying through the night sky, did not echo through village roads but reached the heavens, where the Almighty listened and responded. She believed He counted every tear, like precious pearls stored in a treasury of justice. She believed He saw the scars the world did not, and was weaving a story of restoration where every pain had purpose. Her faith was not a banner raised for the world to admire, but a silent anchor, holding her steady when waves of misunderstanding and injustice crashed against the shore. She had learned that not every battle needed her voice. Some could only be won by entrusting them to the Almighty, who was not only her father, but her warrior, advocate, and protector. When lies spread from the town's shadows, when judging eyes tried to pull her down, she did not respond with anger. She let the Almighty speak for her, trusting that His justice, though perhaps slow, was always complete, always perfect, and always brought healing. Those who have walked through life's long winters, bearing scars from painful years, will understand that faith is not the absence of doubt, but the choice to trust even when darkness surrounds. She had doubted, wondered why injustice happened, why loved ones turned away. But each time she knelt in her small room, each time she let silence envelop her, she found strength to overcome. It was the strength of a heart that knew the Almighty went before her, opened doors she did not knock, and prepared a path ahead where broken dreams would be rebuilt. Her silence, forged from faith, was a quiet declaration that she did not belong to this world's chaos. She belonged to a higher kingdom, where dignity did not need shouting, where love did not need display. As she stood, the candle on the wooden table still burned, a reminder that the flame in her soul never went out. From that small room, her story, woven from tears and prayers, waited to reveal a deeper truth. That in silence, she not only found strength, but a path to healing, a path illuminated by the hand of the Almighty. The candle on the wooden table still flickered, like a small flame stubbornly burning through the night, as the woman gently closed the old book and set it beside a cold teacup. She stood, walking to the window, where moonlight slipped through the oak leaves, scattering silver patches on the floor. In the stillness of the small room, there were no echoes of slander or pain from days past. Instead, there was a gentle flow, like a spring stream quietly watering the barren fields of her soul. Her silence, once a vessel for wounds, had become a sanctuary of healing, where the Almighty gently touched each fragment of her heart, stitching them together with threads of love and grace. She had carried deep scars, cuts from betrayal, bruises from the world's judgments. There were nights, as moonlight streamed through the window like now, when her heart felt like a ruined house, where once vibrant dreams were now rubble. But in silence, she found a sacred space where she could kneel, not to mourn, but to let go. She let her pain fall, like dry leaves drifting from branches in autumn wind, trusting that the Almighty was there, gathering each fragment to build a new story. That silence, like a warm embrace, held her, calmed the waves in her soul, and whispered that she did not have to carry everything alone. Each time she sat in the small room, with the candle dancing and the wind singing outside, she felt the invisible hand of the Almighty touching wounds no one saw. She did not need to shout to dispel pain, nor recount her story to be recognized. In stillness, she heard his gentle whisper, like a cool stream flowing through her, washing away the stains of bitterness and planting seeds of hope. Her silent prayers, sometimes just a sigh or a tear, became petals falling on the altar of faith, where the Almighty turned pain into healing and darkness into light. Her silence was not only where she found healing, but also peace, a deep peace, independent of the world's recognition or the absence of storms. That peace, like the moonlight gently streaming through the window, was not ostentatious, but enough to illuminate the darkest corners of her soul. She had learned that peace did not come from winning every battle, but from entrusting them to the Almighty, trusting He was weaving a tapestry of grace where every thread of suffering had a place. As she walked village paths under the moonlight, that peace radiated from her, like the scent of wild grass after rain, bringing strange comfort to those around her, though they did not speak it. Those who have endured life's long winters, bearing scars from painful years, will understand that healing is not the complete erasure of pain, but its transformation into something beautiful. She no longer saw her scars as signs of failure, but as small paths leading her closer to the Almighty. Each time she chose silence over retaliation, each time she knelt instead of fighting back, she was building a new home in her soul, not of brick and stone, but of faith, forgiveness, and enduring peace. She knew the world might continue to misunderstand, but it no longer shook her, for she had found refuge in silence, where the Almighty was her roof, and His love her light. As the candle burned to its last drops of wax, she stood under the moonlight, her heart lighter, like a bird finding its sky. Her silence, once a vessel for pain, was now a river of healing, flowing through the barren fields of life, carrying hope and peace. From that small room, her story, woven from tears and prayers, waited to reveal a deeper truth, that in silence, she was not only healed, but became a lamp lighting the way for others, a lamp kindled by the hand of the Almighty. As the moonlight faded and the first rays of dawn slipped through the window, the woman stood in the small room, her gaze quietly fixed on the misty village road, where oak trees stood solemn like silent friends. The candle on the wooden table had burned out, leaving wax drops like dried tears, but her heart was now lighter, like a bird finding the sky after a storm. In the silence of early morning, she felt a sacred presence, as if the invisible hand of the Almighty was continuing her story, weaving threads of justice from the fragments of suffering. Her silence, once a vessel for wounds and prayers, had become a doorway through which His justice entered. Not loud like thunder, but gentle like dawn's light, carrying promises of restoration and peace. She had faced bitter injustices, days when slander spread through the village like a cold wind, and judging eyes pierced her like knives. There were moments, standing by the old wooden fence, hearing children's laughter in the distance, when she wondered if justice would ever come, if the wounds she bore would ever be seen. Lies, betrayals, and closed doors had been like boulders blocking her path, making her heart tremble under the weight of waiting. But she did not strike back, nor let her voice join the chorus of resentment. Instead, she knelt in her small room, entrusting her battles to the Almighty, trusting that He, with eyes never closing and hands never tiring, was preparing a path she could not yet see. Her patience, like the old oak outside her porch, was not passivity, but a strength forged through long winters, through nights kneeling under moonlight, praying not for vengeance, but for strength to trust. She had learned that the Almighty's justice did not always follow the world's rhythm, nor always ring like church bells on Sunday mornings. It came quietly, like a stream flowing over rocks, smoothing what was sharp, and bringing restoration no one expected. She believed He saw every tear she shed in the dark, heard every silent prayer, and recorded every pain in the book of justice. That faith, like an oil lamp burning through the night, kept her steady, though the world continued to misunderstand and judge. There were days, walking the village paths under shaded oaks, when she sensed small signs of justice unfolding. An unexpected apology from someone who had hurt her, a new opportunity where she had been rejected, a moment of deep peace when she realized her scars no longer ached as before. The Almighty's justice, she realized, was not about punishing enemies, but about lifting her up, placing her where lies could not reach. He not only closed the doors that hurt her, but opened new paths where she walked with straight shoulders and a heart no longer heavy. That justice, like dawn's light, did not destroy but healed, did not diminish others but raised her with enduring dignity. Those who have walked life's rugged roads, bearing scars from years of waiting, will understand that patience is not surrender, but a fierce act of trust. She had doubted, wondered why justice seemed delayed, but each time she knelt, each time she let silence envelop her, she found strength to wait. That strength, like an oak's roots deep in the earth, was unassuming, but enough to hold her through every storm. She knew the Almighty did not forget her, did not overlook her tears, and was not indifferent to her pain. He was working, quietly but surely, weaving a story of restoration where every fragment found its place. As dawn flooded the small room with warm golden light, she stood, not just a woman who had suffered, but a symbol of patience and faith. Her silence, once a vessel for silent battles, was now a doorway to the Almighty's justice, a justice that not only restored what was lost, but granted a peace beyond understanding. From that wooden house, her story, etched with tears, prayers, and days of waiting, waited to reveal a final truth, that in silence and patience, she was not only protected, but lifted by the hand of the Almighty, becoming a flame that never fades. Dawn had filled the small room, bathing the wooden walls in radiant gold, as if the Almighty were painting a canvas of hope. The woman stepped out of the house, standing under the old oak, where dew on the grass sparkled like jewels reflecting the new light. The village road before her, once echoing with slander and judgment, was now peaceful, like a whisper of restoration. In the silence of early morning, she stood, not just a woman who had suffered, but an enduring lighthouse shining through life's storms. Her silence, once a vessel for wounds, prayers, and waiting, had become a timeless hymn, a testament to the extraordinary strength of a soul that trusted, forgave, and loved even when the world turned away. She had walked rugged paths, each step heavy with the pain of betrayal, misunderstanding, and closed doors. There were nights, as moonlight streamed through the window, when she knelt in her small room, her heart like a barren field. But she chose silence, not from weakness, but because she knew the Almighty was watering her soul with streams of grace. That silence, like a candle burning through the night, not only kept her steady but illuminated those around her, who quietly felt the peace radiating from her, like the scent of wild grass after rain. She did not need to shout to affirm her worth, nor raise a flag to reclaim her honor. Her presence, with straight shoulders, steadfast eyes, and a heart untainted by bitterness, told a heroic tale. Her strength lay not in the loudest voice in the room, but in a silence that knew when to speak and when to let the heavens speak instead. She had learned that dignity did not come from the world's recognition, but from a fierce faith that the Almighty had inscribed her name in the book of life. Each time she chose silence before injustice, each time she knelt instead of retaliating, she wove a tapestry of faith, each thread a tear, each knot a moment she entrusted everything to him. His justice, like this dawn, had come, not to destroy enemies, but to lift her up, placing her where lies could not reach. Her peace, like a deep river flowing through fields, was unassuming, but enough to water every barren place, reminding that true strength is that of a soul that waits, heals, and loves. Those who have endured life's long winters, bearing scars from painful years, will see that the strength of silence is not unfamiliar. It is the small fire in a hearth, the oak standing through storms, the moonlight softly illuminating dark nights. She, the woman under the oak, was a reminder that each person carries a sanctuary, where silence can bridge to the Almighty, where pain can become hope, and where justice arrives quietly but surely. She not only survived storms, but became a lamp lighting the way for others, a symbol of enduring dignity, forged from days she chose trust over doubt, forgiveness over resentment, silence over chaos. As she walked the village road under the morning sun, each step was a rhythm of a wordless hymn, echoing through the oaks, the wooden houses, and the hearts quietly watching. She did not need to declare victory, for her triumph was written in silence, in prayers, and in faith that the Almighty never forgot her. From that wooden house, her story did not end but became a flame of inspiration, a fire that never fades, reminding that the timeless strength of the silent woman lies not only in what she overcame, but in how she turned pain into light, wading into justice, and silence into an eternal song of faith and love. The morning sun bathed the village road, making dew on the grass sparkle like tiny jewels, reflecting the story of the woman standing under the old oak. She walked, each step gentle but firm, like the rhythm of a wordless hymn echoing through wooden houses, green fields, and the hearts quietly watching. Her silence, once a vessel for wounds, prayers, and waiting, was now not only a flame lighting her life, but a torch of inspiration, kindling hope for those lost in the darkness of suffering. She was not just a woman, but a lighthouse, a timeless symbol of strength, reminding that in silence, each person can find a sanctuary, a place to heal, to trust, and to shine. Her story did not stop under the oak or on the dew-covered village road. It spread, like an autumn breeze carrying the scent of wild grass, touching other small rooms, other wooden porches, other hearts bearing their own scars. She had walked rugged paths where the pain of betrayal and misunderstanding once weighed heavy on her heart, but she turned them into light, into peace, into justice. Her silence, forged from faith and patience, not only lifted her above storms, but became a quiet invitation, urging others to find strength in their own moments of stillness. Each tear she shed, each prayer she whispered, became seeds sown in the earth, blooming into flowers of hope, ready for others to pick. In life's moments, when the world's noise threatens to drown you, when slander or closed doors make your heart tremble, remember the woman under the oak. She showed that silence is not surrender, but a doorway to the Almighty, where every pain is seen, every tear counted, and every wound healed. She showed that patience is not passivity, but an enduring strength, like an oak standing through storms, like a deep river flowing through barren fields. And she showed that dignity, forged through painful days, is an invisible crown no one can take away. Let her story be a flame in your heart. When you face life's crossroads, when judgments or injustices try to pull you down, find a moment of silence, perhaps in your small room, beside a cold coffee cup, under the moonlight, or on an old wooden porch. In that silence, listen to the Almighty's whisper, entrust your battles to Him, and trust He is weaving a story of restoration, where every fragment finds its place. Choose silence, not because you are weak, but because you know true strength lies in a heart that waits, forgives, and loves even when the world turns away. Let your silence become a torch, not only lighting your path, but guiding others. Walk, as she walked, with straight shoulders and steadfast eyes, carrying the peace of a soul that has found its sanctuary. From that wooden house, her story spreads like morning sunlight through the oaks, reminding that the strength of the silent woman is not just a story, but a call to find your own flame, to turn pain into light, and to become part of an eternal hymn kindled by faith, love, and enduring silence.